bring that up so that's on my screen so I see it. Sue says hi from London, Ontario. Johanna's here. Welcome, welcome. Tammy's here from Texas. John's here from Northern Kentucky. Looks like we have Michigan represented, and now the people logging on just got really fast. I can't keep track of it all. We have Peoria, Illinois. Awesome. Kansas City, Grand Rapids, Pampa, Texas, Franklin Lake, San Antonio, California. Wow, we have a great group here, United States and Canada. As the numbers continue to come in, we have great people here from New Jersey. We designed this webinar today for our brokers and owners to really get an understanding of how different companies at different levels are dealing with the coronavirus, what's working well, what they're finding challenging with, and what are some of the resources that they're plugged into that are starting to pay off and work for people. And I got to tell you that it's been a very interesting time. I like to tell everybody as we do webinars right now that I've learned that there's nothing more contagious than the coronavirus than a bad attitude. And so I like to surround myself with people that have great attitudes and that are looking for ways to solve problems, not complain about issues or things that are going on. And we have assembled a tremendous group today with great attitudes, and their positive attitudes and the way that they're messaging and helping their people will be extremely contagious. So without any further ado, let me introduce each of our panelists today, and then we're going to go through. We're just going to have an open conversation. Now, we are recording this, so we have the ability for those of you who want to share this with other members of your company, that you have the ability to share with them the information that gets shared. So I'm going to encourage everybody to get out a pen and a pencil and something to write with so that you can take notes. I want to first introduce my friend Todd Hetherington. Todd is the founder and co-owner of Century 21 New Millennium. They're out of Alexandria, Virginia. They kind of work the whole tri-state area. I think they have around 18 offices and near 1,000 agents and continuing to grow. Todd's a great leader, and he is an inspirational leader. He drives and runs a very, very good business. And it's been a fun as a coach and a consultant to work with them over the last couple of years. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for Todd and Mary Lynn as partners, as well as the leadership team that they've put together. Todd, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it, Verl.
You betcha. I'm glad you're here. We also have with us, and so Todd represents our big brokerage, and we also have with us Alan Smith. Alan owns a company called Remax Professionals with his partners. Alan's been licensed since '83. He joined Remax Professionals in '94, and he's currently one of the broker owners. And he also has a tremendous leadership group. What I love about Alan is, a lot of companies talk about their core values and they tell their agents this is what they want them to be, but they don't really live them. Alan and his partners are great examples of companies that live their values, and it's fun to interact with them and to see the culture and the people that they've attracted. The attraction has been amazing. Alan also holds a CRS, a GRI, a CDPE, a CLHMS designations. He's a education junkie, and not just so he wants to be better at the business, but he wants to be able to lead his people. In 2010, he was inducted into the Remax Circle of Legends, which is quite an honor. Alan, thank you for being here, and I'm excited that you're here with us.
Thank you, Verl. It's an honor to be here. Thanks for putting this on.
Last but not least, representing our small broker is our good friend Mike Koch. Mike is out of DeForest, Wisconsin, and I like to call him a cheesehead, but he's a true Wisconsinite. Mike's a good man. He has a tremendous background in leadership and also as a former Marine. Mike started his real estate career in 2001 as a land sales consultant. In 2005, he was promoted as the general manager of his company's Wisconsin division. In 2010, he opened up his own brokerage called Terra Firma Realty. He runs his brokerage as a team, and he's ranked #1 in lakefront sales since 2010 for South Central Wisconsin MLS, and is currently ranked in the top 1% of all total sales. Mike runs a tremendous team where he has the opportunity to work with his family, which I think is tremendous. Mike's also one of our senior coaches at Workman Success Systems, and so besides running a tremendous business, he also has a massive impact on a lot of other people in different companies. And so, gentlemen, thank you for being here. We have a great group of listeners here today, and each one of us are dealing with the coronavirus in different ways. We all have all these challenges we're dealing with, the one thing that everybody wants to know is, hey, how are we getting funded? Is anybody getting and taking advantage of the PPP program and this government stimulus? And I would just like to start with what the dynamics are. You know, some people are finding that their banks aren't even responding. I just saw an email from one of the big national banks saying that they are no longer even supporting their individual clients, that they've run out of the ability to process. So the government's had some snafus. Would you mind just kind of sharing with us how you're dealing with it as a company and what you're messaging to your agents? And why don't we start with Mike, and then we'll go Mike, Allen, and Todd.
Yeah, it's been quite the process. I mean, we've applied for both the EIDL as well as the PPP, and we started that process middle of last week. They started taking the applications and processing them last Friday for businesses, and I think the independent contractors don't start until the 10th. But we jumped on it right away. We asked our lenders what documentation they were going to need. We know our lenders were working on it over the weekend. Every day they were requesting different information to support what we had submitted to them. And just yesterday we had our loan approved, and we should see that funding within hopefully the next 10 days so that we can support our team members.
Excellent. Alan, what's happening in your neck of the woods in Colorado?
You know what? We have applied for the PPP loan, put all the documentation together. We were trying to be on that midnight filing because we heard it's a first come, first served basis. They had changed some things, so we got it done Friday. We got a call Tuesday. Today's Thursday, right? We lose track of time here in our quarantines. We got a call Tuesday that we're approved. They asked us what account that money should go into yesterday. I am guessing we will see funds by Friday or Monday. So it is moved along very nicely. One thing that we have found that's been helpful, Mike mentioned that for independent contractors, that those funds become available, or at least the applications can start tomorrow on the 10th. And so we've designated one of our staff to just be the point person, and she has just done a phenomenal job putting an entire page together for all of our agents. So we just call it our RE/MAX Professionals Cares program, and she's got all the links and all the information as to what's available. So our agents just hit one click and they've got everything available to them to help for what will be applicable to them.
I love that you've dedicated someone to help the agents be able to do that, because people don't even know. It was interesting. Yesterday it was a coaching day for me, and I only coach 5 clients personally. And in talking to one of my clients, they hadn't even thought about it. They hadn't even gone through and thought about applying. They were just gonna suck it up and cover it out of their own pocket and keep everybody employed. And I said, it doesn't make any sense. The government is trying to keep, people employed, and they're incentivizing you to do it. So even if you don't need the money, you should be going through the process of getting through and applying for everything. And so I love that you're making that easy for everybody. Todd, you've been deeply involved, not just at your own company, but on a national level at helping people figure out and navigate these crazy waters. Tell us what you're experiencing.
Well, it's interesting. Last Monday, we had an exec team meeting, and Kevin Walsh is our CPA and CFO, and he was running through to our exec team what the different PPP programs mean. And you all sort of glaze over and gloss over and like, oh, yeah. And then he pulled up the Excel spreadsheet and said how this would affect New Millennium. And when the number was multiple 7 figures, we were like, oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding me. So we obviously were a little bit more attentive during that meeting and realized that we needed to get this word out there, because if this was going to affect us this way, we wanted to reach out to some of the other friends in the business. So we're part of a brainstorming group. And the gentleman that is the executive director and sort of the facilitator of that group, I reached out to him and said, hey, do not pass, do not collect your $200. We need to get together and make sure everybody realizes this. He also facilitates, and that's within the Century 21 brand, he facilitated one in Sotheby's and Coldwell Banker as well. So we pulled all 3 together literally the next day, and Kevin and I went through the rundown of what it really meant to the companies. And on that one, believe it or not, we had about 100 brokers, sign in. We're like, wow, okay. From that, the CEO of Century 21, Mike Needler, said, hey, can you reach out to the rest of our brokers, because this is that important. And truth be told, for all of us, everybody that's on right now, there's over 200 participants. This is the most critical thing any of us are doing in our businesses right now, to be able to take care of our agents and our staff. So That parlayed into when Mike asked us if we could do it. Then John Payton, the CEO of Realogy Franchise Group, got involved and said, hey, can you do it for all of our brokers? We had 1,150 brokers across the country and we had a 90-minute, basically a 30-minute presentation and 60 minutes of questions back and forth on the chat and through the Microsoft Groups Teams meeting. It's astronomical, and if you haven't done it, please do it right now. We have filed, it was back and forth and it's changed. Kevin, thankfully, is also part of multiple brainstorming groups within other CPAs and attorneys that are just read on to what's going on with respect to real estate. Cleve and I have been exchanging 2 and 3 phone calls and emails every day for the last week. And he's been putting the research in. We've been putting the research in. We've been comparing notes and just sharing everything. So like Alan says, if you go on our website, you can find, and actually, if anybody wants the recording, Kevin did the presentation for agents last Monday, right after we found out about it. And you can never get this type of buy-in, but we had 291 of our agents signed into that Zoom, leaning forward.
Wow.
And he did it from the agent perspective and what it means to be filing, whether you are sole proprietor, it's an individual agent, independent contractor versus an LLC or a corporation. And then we did the other ones after that, which obviously spurred some information. So we have both of those recordings. Actually, what I'll try to do, I'll even put them in chat right now if I can, and enable everybody to be able to copy them if they want to.
Hey, that would be great. I'll also have a landing page that we can deliver some information to from everybody. So I can drop that.
I'll have Jen get you both of the links and the PowerPoint presentation. We've shared it amongst all the different brokers around the country. This is that important. We are all in this together, guys. If you want to take the PowerPoint presentation that he gave our agents and just put your name on it, plagiarize the heck out of it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, and that's part of why this group is all together. Everybody is a sharer and a giver, and I appreciate that. One of the things that I've noticed that I think is really important that when we talk about this stimulus money, what the purpose of the money is and why we're doing it. Most of the sound businesses have operating capital saved up for a rainy day because we've gone through bad times before in the past, and so we've all been through real estate crashes and we've saved money up. But the stimulus for me as a business owner, what it does for me is it allows me to pay all of my people longer and give them the money to put back into the economy to keep the economy going. And so it gives me as an owner a lot more runway. How are you guys looking at these funds? I kind of look at them as sacred funds to give back to keep the business rolling. We need people to continue to buy houses and sell houses and move and do the things that, if money's not moving in our economy, the economy stops. And so it allows me to get it back into the economy and moving again. How are you looking at it?
I can speak to that pretty succinctly. It's how we have to look at it. It's how legally we are required to look at it. We can't take those funds and use them for anything else other than the 4 areas that they've allocated and made authorized. So we run afoul of basically, right now the note is forgiven if you apply it towards those 4 items. And it is basically free money if you properly account for it. So what I'd strongly encourage everybody to do is every single penny you get in from that, you open up a separate account or multiple accounts, and you are able to account for it because your accountant is going to have to give exact details and breakdown of these are the salaries I paid, these are the occupancies, the expenses I paid, these are the repairs, this is the health insurance, whatever you're putting it towards, don't put a penny of it towards anything other than those items, because you basically, they can call it due immediately, and the recourse that they have is pretty substantial. If you look at it,
Alan,
I'm sorry, I was just going to make the comment. If you look at it and truly where we are right now before the next 4th funding round comes out, we are probably no different than the rest of the couple hundred brokers on the call. April is still looking pretty good. Mortgage and title in April looks very good. Real estate looks pretty darn good. There's not much of a fall off. March was actually very good. Our May and June, and we're compiling the numbers, and I'll be preparing an update to shoot a video tomorrow, are probably going to be falling off considerably. So if May and June, in an ideal world, and let's all cross our fingers, if we all basically have a sucky May and June, but we've got the stimulus money in order to basically counterbalance 80%, let's not kid ourselves, occupancy and salaries comprise 78% of what we're spending money on. So if we have that money for May and June, we just need to be concerned about July and the out months. And if all things are holding, one of the best Inman articles this morning was what's going on in China and the 30 largest provinces in China and the rebound that they're already seeing. On February 8th, they had 22 real estate sales in those 30 largest provinces. In December, before the pandemic started, they had like 5,750. Now, this month, meaning March, they had 5,900 and some odd. So they had more than they had pre-pandemic. They've already started to see, because they've released the restrictions and they're back at it. Let's cross our fingers that the United States and our individual markets follow suit.
I think that's great. That's great data. Alan, how are you looking at the funds as a business to make sure that you're putting them in the right places?
Well, the same thing that Todd was talking about. I mean, the biggest motivation that you have is if you don't comply with what it can be spent for, then it becomes a loan rather than basically a grant from the government. So we will be very judicious in that. Our CFO has been phenomenal in putting that whole package together. She fully understands what we can use it for. And generally, as Todd mentioned, it's going to be making payroll, keeping our staff. I mean, that's the number one priority for us, keeping our staff in place and being able to pay for bricks and mortar and continuing to make sure that we've got our offices up and running as soon as we can populate them again. But you're highly motivated to do it right if it becomes a grant. So that part is not a problem. I will mention this too, Verl, that a lot of people have said that some of the banks aren't taking applications anymore for the PPP loans. I talked to 2 banks yesterday, smaller banks, and they both said, absolutely. If you've got people that still need to get an application in, we are still processing those and expect those to fund. I think the bigger ones, the rumor was out that Wells Fargo, for instance, had met their quota. I had heard through one of the press conferences that was self-inflicted by Wells Fargo, not that they had used all the money that they were going to have. So, but the 2 banks I talked to yesterday both said, yep, we're good, bring it on.
Yeah, one of the questions that comes up a lot is, so I have a business where I have employees. We have 30 plus employees, but then I have another 60 coaches that are all independent contractors. And just like a broker owner has realtors that are independent contractors, some people are trying to figure out how that applies with independent contractors. And it's pretty clear that independent contractors have their own dollars available to them as independent contractors, and not to be taken by the owner of the company. So I don't get to get stimulus for the coaches that I pay. They all have to apply independent, just like realtors do,
right,
for their stimulus program. Mike, as a small business, what are you seeing what are you looking at the upside of the stimulus money? How are you looking at it? I know that you've been very proactive at making sure you're applying for all of the programs, and you're an example of an independent contractor as a guy that has both, right? So you have a small brokerage, and then you've got people that are independent contractors on your teams. How are you communicating that to them?
So we're basically taking the same approach as Todd and Alan, is that 100% of this funds is going to go back into supporting the operations and paying our people. We have also set up a separate bank account so that those funds will be tracked specifically for that. And what our bank had relayed to us today is that they're only going to fund half of what we're eligible for. Then we're going to reconnect after we've used that to make sure that 100% of it was applied to those 4 things, so that we can hopefully be forgiven and not have this loan on our books for years to come. But when I read that 17% of the economy is driven by real estate and all of our affiliates, I see this money as a way to keep us all in business and keep our people employed. Instead of laying them off and having them go on unemployment with the other 7 million people that are right there right now, the government wants to protect that money for the people who need that unemployment, keep people on payroll when we can to drive the economy as we rebound out of this. And I know that real estate is going to play a huge part in bringing the economy back, with us contributing 17% back into the economy. So that's the big thing, is just survive the storm so that when things bounce, we're ready to drive the economy as an industry.
I love the impact. Now I want to transition into actually doing real estate for just a minute, because I think that as we moved into this virtual world of real estate, the way that we do business going forward, I believe, is going to be forever impacted as the way that we've adapted to be able to continue to transact during home confinement. We're sequestered in our home. I would love to hear from each one of you what's been easy from a transition perspective, and are you doing some virtual real estate? Like in each of your markets, I want to know if you're considered essential or not, and if you're still doing transactions, whether you're essential or not essential. Mike, why don't we start with you? Tell me, are you an essential in your market?
We are essential. We can still conduct our business. We can still host showings. We can't attend closings anymore. Our lenders can't attend closings either. Just the consumers have to be in there. But we've really changed our business. We're going virtual as much as we can, maintaining that physical distancing as much as we can. And that's really driven our technology to do things differently and be as safe as we can. And in terms of what's been easy, that's a difficult question. I mean, when I think of what's been easy over the last 3 weeks for us, we've been in safer at home mode since our governor put the order out on March 25th. But our team, we acted a week earlier. We decided that we wanted everybody working from home, except for one of our support staff members who goes in. We wanted everybody from home a week before that. But I'd say the easiest thing has been gaining weight. My wife has been baking.
I'm with you.
Right? I mean, my wife's been baking. The pantry and the refrigerator are closer than they've ever been. But so that's been easy. So we need to get out of this and get back. But the easy part from a real estate perspective, I would say, is just making those deeper connections with people. You know, people want to talk to us. They want to hear good news. I think of a coaching client who had a conversation with, and they just were not focused on their prospecting and their money-making activities because they had a limiting belief that because they were home and seeing 20 and 30 phone calls coming in from political parties and whatnot, they thought they would just be bothering the consumer. And so we had to have a talk about how they're not bothering them, how they're calling them up, how they're providing service, that they're not selling anything, and talk about people want to connect with us at a deeper level. And that you just need to make those calls and see how people respond. And I think how they respond and engage with him is going to help him push that aside and continue on doing his business.
So you're finding it easy to connect if you actually pick up the phone, but it's hard to connect if you don't?
Exactly.
I love that. Alan, what about your market? Are you essential? Are you able to transact?
Well, that is a great question because like the weather in Colorado, it changes about every day. We basically, once the governor gave us our shelter in place, we were with some negotiation from the Colorado Association of Realtors and our Department of Regulatory Agencies, we were deemed an essential service. A new order came out from the governor a few days ago. The wording did not really change, but the Attorney General decided that he would define it differently. And so as of this week, we are no longer an essential service. We cannot show homes. We cannot do open houses, which we haven't done those for a month anyway. But we basically, the Attorney General said the only essential service in Colorado is very simply this. You can get a closing done and you can deal with an appraisal. That's it. No inspections, no walkthroughs, no showing homes, and it has caused quite a commotion. I will say this, our agents, man, are they creative as independent contractors because they have asked the same question at least 500 different ways, but can I do this? And, you know, we're trying to be good citizens. We're trying to obey the laws of the land right now. The general rule of thumb is if we will shelter in place, we don't have the ability to spread this disease and we can flatten this curve. So we're trying to be really good citizens. Now, our governor yesterday in a press conference got pressed by one of the reporters and said, do you realize that your policies are leaving people homeless? We have sellers that are having to go into closings because they committed to that closing in February and March, and they can't move anywhere because they can't go look at houses. And the governor basically said, no, our market is transacting. This is still going on. And he basically hinted that, hey, you know what, we should be able to transact business. So we're going to see. I mean, as of this morning, the word is we are still not an essential service. I am at the office because I had to sneak into a closing this morning and sign a couple of things with a mask on. But basically, we're not essential. So it is definitely our showings. We can say that we're doing virtual showings, but it's not working very well.
Yeah, it's interesting. Are you getting listings? Are you seeing listings come on the market? In every market, whether they're essential or not, I've noticed that if I pull up the last 7 days on the MLS, it's surprising how many people are getting listings and how many pendings are going under contract.
Yeah, I mean, for our market in the last 3 days, 611 new listings and 667 pendings. I don't know how they're doing this. I'm assuming that they're writing contracts, either they're breaking the rules or they're writing contracts sight unseen, and they'll deal with it in an inspection and use a COVID-19 addendum to push some dates out. But it is surprising. We've done the same thing going, how is this happening?
But I love it. I love that there's creativity. I love that people are transacting. One thing I realized, Todd, is that we can't stop life events from occurring. And people have life events that cause them to, that require them to make a move. And our job, I believe, this is just my opinion, is that our job is not to tell someone whether they should move or not. It's to create a safe environment for them when that life event happens, so that we can provide the services that we're trained to do. Todd, what you cover multiple states. Are you essential in all of it and not essential in other? Are you dealing with that? How are you dealing with that?
Oh, yeah. So Virginia, Maryland, and DC have vacillated, and they've all been different, and now they're all on the same sheet of music. We are essential in all three, but as you can imagine, changing the company protocol and communicating that, because we'll have agents that live in Maryland, but they're dual or tri-licensed, so they need to get read on for all the different jurisdictions. So we were, sending literally twice a day changes in company protocol out to everybody. So that was probably one of the biggest challenges for the first 10 days. I'd love to take a second and talk about our mentality as a company. So there's company protocol, and obviously we all have to, keep everybody safe and follow CDC protocol, et cetera, et cetera. But our mentality is that the individual is what matters. My opinion doesn't matter. Anybody on this, as a panelist on this, doesn't matter. Everybody, they're opposite ends of the spectrum, literally. Some people politically think that this is absolutely ridiculous and it's blown out of proportion, and we should get back to, get the economy needs to get back rolling, and we're having that many more people hurt as a result. Other people, conversely, are dealing with family members that are dying. So it's a personal opinion. So our company mindset is that we will respect the individual's wishes. We respect the buyer, the seller. If a buyer wants, thankfully, we can show homes. So Alan, we're not quite as restricted. In Virginia, Maryland, and DC, we can show property. We're obviously not conducting open houses open to the public, and our offices, even though technically our offices can be open to the public, we've opted to go one step better, like Mike was referring to. We have minimal manning. We have one staff member in there to make sure that our mindset there is, if we keep one staff member in there, they can properly sanitize and they can keep it cleaner and tidier and be there to support the agents that come through or the closings that are taking place. But if a seller says, I want to hold off and I don't want people trouncing through my house during this period of time, that's fine. Alan, you rattled off the stats. We're not seeing that much of a diminished amount right now. We have listings that are building up and people saying, I'm going to put it on, as soon as this is over, and that's great. But the listing presentations are taking place virtually. I'm really proud of not only our agents, but the realtor profession for stepping up to the plate and actually getting out there and changing and doing something. I think we're all going to learn from this. We're going to learn a ton from this. Some of the benefits that we as broker owners, for Mary Lynn or I to try to make it into 20 different branch business meetings that take place on any given Tuesday morning the old-fashioned way, we'd have to travel and we could only make one. We can now pop into 5 or 6 of them in a 10 or 15 minutes and still be able to get our fingers on the pulse of what's going on and be visible and get a sense from the agents. So that's kind of cool. When you asked what's easy, we rolled out an initiative earlier this week, and it's not something that we created, but we basically jumped on the bandwagon of a national initiative called FLAG, the Frontline Appreciation Group. And thankfully, we were able to get the area, the DC, Virginia, Maryland, metro area. And that was easy to roll out because our agents are just searching for something to rally behind, and they know that they're doing good things. What that group does is basically it raises money to deliver food to the front lines that are out there, and you're taking it, you're reaching out on both sides. The restaurants benefit because we're paying real money to the restaurants, so they benefit, and then the food goes to the front line. So kind of neat.
I love that. That whole mentality of the organization that's doing, providing food is the serve regardless of opportunity mentality. And if we are going to do that, And I really believe that now's not the time to be selling people on anything. It's to be just finding out what they need and serving them. And if we serve, and I know that all of you have the same attitude, that the business will take care of itself, and when the bounce occurs, that we'll be at the top of the curve because of the service that we provided. And I don't look at any area of service as I hope I get a transaction from it. I look at it as, how do I serve? And I get my gratitude. And I hope that our agents and the brokers that are on this call feel the same way, is that our role is to serve our agents right now and to teach them how to serve their communities. And as they do that, then the communities will rebound a lot quicker. And so I love that mentality. One of the things that I've noticed, and you guys all have access to the Workman Success Training Center, but we've had a almost 1,000% increase in the number of agents that are going through RAMP, our brand new program, or BAM or SLAM. How are you guys incorporating online training in your companies to keep the agents engaged and working on their businesses? Todd?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, and actually we're in discussions right now to try to, and as you know, and just to fill everybody in, we've been have in the past embraced SLAM and BAM, and it's fantastic. If you haven't done it, now is the most opportune time that you could do it. So I'll give you a shameless plug, Verl, and I mean that very sincerely. We had hundreds of our agents go through that training. We got our branch leaders certified, and they're certified facilitators, and we train it at every level of the company, and it's fantastic. And now with RAMP, what we're trying to figure out is how we can roll RAMP and sort of put it together with our FIRE program, which is our training program, full immersion real estate, be able to pull those together. So now is the time for people to get on there and do it. The challenge we all have, I think it's absolutely comical. We're working from home. You think it would be more relaxed, but I'm sure you guys are just like me. We're working 12 and 14-hour days, literally sitting down, and from the second you wake up in the morning till the second you're done, you're on 12 different Zooms and really trying to figure out. We montaged together and pulled the master calendar for the company together. So between the stuff that the brand has, the stuff that you have with Workman, Verl, the stuff that we have as a company, the stuff that our branches have, and the morning, coffee clutches and the afternoon happy hours, and just the social things, the training things, the coaching things. We moved up our coaching, which normally takes place the latter part of April, early May. We moved that up, and all of these things going on. It's somewhat daunting. And when I challenge you, if you pull them all together and take a look at it, you're probably going to say, okay, we need to slow down and pull some of these things out to make sure that we're doing things that we need to do well. But yeah, take advantage of it. It's awesome.
I love that. Alan, how about you guys? You guys have been, you guys have been big proponents and early adopters of some of the systems and processes. How are you seeing your agents engage more in the online services that you're making available? What's the impact been like?
Well, that's very, very similar to what Todd was saying, that it's almost overwhelming. As a broker owner or manager, I feel like we're working as hard as we ever have, trying to keep up, from go-to meetings to Zoom meetings to WebExes to webinars to live Facebook Lives. It has been a bit overwhelming. But what we've tried to do is every day, either myself or one of my two partners, Mike and Brad, one of us puts out a video letting everybody know what's available for that day, or what they can tune into, and what we're seeing as some important information. Obviously, we're able to use, BAM and SLAM. We've done live classes. We haven't done the virtual live classes yet, but you guys have a webinar tomorrow to teach me how to do that. So I will be tuning into that. But we've got them all watching videos. We've asked each one of our managers, and I will tell you, they have been phenomenal. Our managers every day put out a piece to each of their agents that says, here's your challenge for today. Here's what I want you to accomplish today. And my concern sometimes is it's really easy to sit on Zooms and webinars and Facebook Lives and do that all day long. And then it's a nice excuse not to pick up the phone and not to write some thank you notes and do all that stuff. So there are days where I just go, okay, I want all that stuff to go away. I just want to work. I just want to do what I love doing. And that's talking to clients and talking to our agents and helping them from that standpoint. So it can be overwhelming, like everything else. We have to find some balance. Get in, work in your business, work on your business, and find that balance throughout the day. And then walk your dog 6 times a day. Goodness gracious. We've had, if we're not, if I'm not going to the pantry, as Mike says, then we're trying to walk the dog. My 2 labs are actually limping around the house right now. They're like,
You're wearing them out.
again? We have to walk again. So
I love that.
yeah,
Mike, talk to me about yeah.
Yeah, it's funny to hear Alan talk about just getting back to doing some of the basics and the fundamentals. I had a Zoom listing presentation last night, and I was so excited to do that because it just got me back to what kind of the norm was before. And it went well. We landed it. They signed the listing agreement today, so
nice.
It was great. But Verl, you guys have been pushing out a lot more material over the last couple of weeks. It seems like I'm getting notifications from you routinely about going live and having great presenters on. I mean, yesterday you had Jason Hewitt on, and he's absolutely amazing. So I think that the Workman team is doing an amazing job of getting new material out to the agents and the brokers. The RAMP program is fantastic, and will provide plenty of training for people moving forward. And don't get too consumed by it. Maybe just commit to watching one video per day. You know, use the tools that are available to the agents and learn a new skill. Dial in your pillars of income. Make sure that when you come out of this, that you're ahead of where you went into it at. For us, it's been really important to maintain our schedule. You know, our team, our agents, they still start the morning every day at 8:30 with role playing. And there's been a lot of role playing lately over how to handle the coronavirus and how to overcome some of those objections and educate the consumers. And then we jump into prospecting. It's a mandatory prospecting for a couple hours. And then we have our team huddle right after that. Once they get to the afternoon, that's the time that they can spend doing showings or negotiating contracts. We've got some agents who are getting better with their gimbals and their video technology so that they can go out and do virtual walkthroughs for people. And then also, this is a continuing ed year for us. So why not get your CE in now instead of waiting until November and December to complete it by December 15th? Do it now so that's already done. And when the bounce happens, you're ready to commit back to the job.
Yep.
So you guys all gave a nice example of how you're using tools and systems. And I want to make sure everybody understands that the purpose of this webinar is to give everybody an opportunity to see what we're doing. And I'm gonna ask my team to do this. On the download page, it's workmansuccess.com/town hall. If you're a broker owner and you need some training for your agents, I will just give it to you for the next 60 days. I'll just plug it in and you can just have it. And you don't have to give me a credit card. If we do business in the future, that's fine. If we don't, that's okay too. If I can help you get your agents engaged and working forward and making progress, then I'll just give it to you. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that our goal is to help each other right now, and if we can all pitch in and do that. So on the link, if you're a broker owner, and this isn't the individual agents, I have to do this through brokerages. When you get that link, I'll have a special process where you can just go in and sign your company up, and I'll let your agents have access to our training center, like Alan and Todd and Mike all use to get your people engaged and moving things along. So that's my gift to all of you that are on the call today. So thank you for being here, and thanks for all you're doing to keep things rolling. I'm curious from the three of you, what kind of opportunities are you seeing as a result of what's going on right now? Like, how many of you, I don't know if you're even looking at that, but I'm seeing incredible opportunities. What kind of opportunities are you seeing? And let's start with you, Mike. What kind of opportunities are you seeing?
Well, I heard a quote from Chuck Swindoll that said, we're all faced with a series of great opportunities brilliantly disguised as impossible situations. And so as impossible as COVID seems, if we were just to essentially lean into the situation instead of lean out of the situation and find those opportunities that we could capitalize on. You know, one of the opportunities I think is really important for all of us is that as real estate agents, most of us are very involved in the community. And you need to be the light in your community. You need to be the light with your clients. Everybody is handling the situation differently. We have to respect that, not belittle them if they think it's, you know, too severe or not severe enough, but be the light, be the positive one, really help our industry lead the way. You know, there's changes that are happening within our industry right now that I think are going to be here to stay. Whether it's better pictures, better video, video walkthroughs, open houses, you know, electronic notary is in process right now. Agents getting more comfortable requiring buyers to get pre-approvals and buyer agency agreement before they go out and play tour guide. And just maybe the lenders will even move to electronic forms and save some more trees. But that's probably still a ways down the road. But right now, you know, you have more time to engage your sphere of influence and your other clients at a deeper level. And as I mentioned before, they really want to hear from you. it's time to work on your business. You are so busy in production, as Todd had mentioned earlier in the call, we were just running 100 miles an hour. And this is time that you can take to start working on your business. And, not to talk bad about any other companies, but I just read in Inman that Redfin laid off 41% of their agents. EXP's released 15% of their staff. And, things are changing right now. And there's going to be a lot of agents who are getting out of the business. But if you lean into it instead of lean away from it, I think it's probably the best opportunity to gain market share in the last 10 years.
Mike, it's interesting you say that. I actually have one of the EXP leaders that just purchased the whole training center for his entire organization. And so while you might have some people that are tightening their belts, individual leaders are leaning into the problem and saying, how can I provide more value? And I have a lot of respect for those. It seems to be, Todd kind of said, you're either on one end of the spectrum or the other, and the truth is somewhere in the middle. And that's the ones that are in the middle, they're not freaking out, and they're not ignoring what's going on either, but they're understanding it and leaning into the problem. I think that's a great analysis. Alan, are you recognizing or seeing some new opportunities? What are you seeing as opportunities?
We are. I think that one of the biggest opportunities we're going to see here is a little bit of a wake-up call and a reset. I mean, this pandemic is of biblical proportions, and this is nothing that we ever want to do again in our lives, I hope. As you were talking about my education, I never imagined I would have to even come close to using my CDPE designation again and dealing with certified distressed properties. But that's possible. I mean, that may come back. And so the opportunities in so many different cases are going to present themselves. But the biggest thing I think that our agents are finding right now is it's not as hard as they thought to talk to people. Before we're constantly begging them, just pick up the phone and talk. And the answer is always, but what do I say? And now they don't have to worry about that. I don't have to talk about real estate. I just need to call and talk and have that relationship work. And your whole concept of SBO is right on the money. Serve before the opportunity. Our agents are learning how to serve. I think we're all learning how to serve better. We've all changed priorities and really have had a nice little wake-up call as to how that reset will work. Imagine that we're at some point here in the next couple of months, we may be driving down a busy road of traffic and going, this is awesome. You know what? I'm just walking into a full theater or a full stadium again and going, rather than complaining, or, hey, I get to go do an open house rather than I have to go do an open house. It's going to be exciting to re-engage, see people, hug people, and have that be a part of our lives again. I think we're going to be just better people because of that, which means we should be better realtors, because that's really what this business is all about. Hopefully we learn from this, and hopefully we don't have short memories. This is quite a wake-up call, and hopefully one we don't go through again in our lifetimes, because this is incredibly unique. But I think the biggest change, realtors have learned how to use technology for probably the first time ever. Guys like you, Verl, you have been a great proponent of an advocate of using technology. I did not know how to use Google Docs as proficiently until I had to get into my Workman success systems and deal with my coach and get great information. And now that whole piece is so cool. And I can't tell you how many times I thought, I should learn that someday. And it's made me do this. Zoom, GoTo, all of these things we can do. I don't really think that's going to change our buyer and seller presentations that much, because when I can go visit with my seller, I'm not going to do a Zoom meeting with them again. But you know what I think will change a little bit for us is I think we will do more virtual closings. I think we will do more electronic things on closings. So I think it will change our closings, at least in our marketplace. But I don't know about you. I can't wait to get in front of clients again and spend time with them. Can I be more efficient with some electronic things? Absolutely. And now I know how. I'm not afraid of it. But this is a people-to-people business, and I hopefully will be able to get back to that soon.
I love your passion for the business. I think you're right. I do think that it's going to change the way we do real estate forever in a lot of areas, and I believe you'll be able to create a lot more scale. I think sometimes you're going to go face to face with people. But when you can't, it'll be no big deal to just say you buy your
Right.
computer, and you'll throw open your computer. You'll say, walk through your home, show me the important things, and you'll say, you know what, based on that, let me show you the MLS, and here's what houses are selling for, and this is what it would look like if we put it on the market. So you'll have different options that weren't available to you before because you never had to learn it. Now you got it.
Yep.
Todd, are you talking about opportunities with your agents and with your managers about what they could be focused on to create and be ready for opportunities? What are you seeing?
Well, absolutely. And I just jotted probably half a dozen things down here just off the tip of my tongue. I think the first opportunity is for us to all to be able to be ombudsmen out there spreading positivity, obviously with a dose of realism, but the world is not ending right now. There are a lot of good things that are still going to come out of this, and we will come out of this better for it. We do, and it's funny you mentioned that don't be calling people, hey, who do you know wants to buy or sell a house? We have each one of our offices doing a share and care calling hour on Wednesdays from like 4:30 to 5:30, and then another, and the times may be different per office, and then another half hour huddle back up to see how things went and what people are experiencing. And Alan alluded to it before that most people nowadays are picking up their darn phone, so they want to talk to somebody, and they're going to embrace that, so they're happy to do that. One of my childhood friends had posted on Facebook, probably one of the first or second day that this all hit. And he put on there, why are we social distancing? Let's practice physical distancing while maintaining social relationships. And so Cleve called me and goes, I'm going to steal that. I'm going to spread that out. So I'm hoping that everybody, there's 205 people chimed in on this. Can you all please take that and spread it? There's no pride of authorship with me. Again, it's a childhood friend from my church growing up. I'll give him a credit, Marcus de Flormont. But Marcus put, let's practice physical distancing while maintaining social relationships. If we can all make sure that word continues to get out there, we'll be better for it. I agree, embracing technology is key critical. Obviously, in DC, we've got 15 military installations within a 30-mile radius in the federal government. We've got a lot of people. It's a highly transient area, and people are coming in and leaving. So a lot more of our stuff, whether it be a listing presentation or a buyer consultation, will be done via Zoom, has in the past been done via Zoom. We've been using Zoom for about 3 years now, but we're using it a lot more. I think there'll be efficiencies for us as broker owners on the company level. For a company of our size, we typically get our branch leaders in monthly, twice monthly, once individually for a 60 to 90 minute coaching session, but then also as a group. And we're finding that the Zoom meetings are actually that much more efficient. It's not taking 60 minutes to go through the same stuff. You can still get, now that we're getting used to the give and take, I think it's absolutely critical that everybody be audio and video. There's no point in even having a Zoom if you're not going to turn on your video. So we all have to make a point and
Right.
call people out. I'm calling agents out. I'm calling branch leaders and team leaders out saying, Verl, I can't see you right now. Pop on your video. I don't care what you look like. So let's try to do that. I think we're going to be, there'll be some efficiencies, and we'll be more effective in what we do. But I also think, and when you mentioned you're a certified distressed property expert, I think there will be a lot of opportunity from a real estate investing standpoint. I personally am looking forward to that as an avid investor for the past 30 years in the area.
Great thoughts and ideas. I love the optimism, and we started the call off talking about PPP and taking advantage of the stimulus program and things that are happening out there. And then we got into a little bit about what's been easy and how we're communicating with our agents and how we're helping them see the world. It's easy to serve. And then we talked about seeing opportunities. I'd like to, when we have all this optimism, we also have to be smart business people. And when you look at your P&L and you look at your monthly expenses, you look at the things you're spending money on. As leaders at different sizes in businesses, what are the kinds of things that you're reevaluating and deciding to push back? I know for me, I looked at all of my monthly expenses, I looked at the things that I'm spending money on, and I went through with my CFO, and we just made a list of the things that were essential or not essential. What are the kinds of things that you're doing to be smart business leaders to create stability for your company? Alan, let's start with you.
Well, same thing. I mean, we're just doing line items, sitting down with our CFO and saying, okay, what's most important? I think the biggest waste for us, I mean, obviously everybody is questioning, do we need this much office space anymore? And my personal opinion is, I think our agents are going to come running back to the office when they can. because they're sick and tired of being home. I think that the energy that comes from seeing deals being done and just the energy of watching agents really be high producers, I think agents generally like that. And I think that they've learned to appreciate their staff that has made their life very easy and is trying to do all this from home right now. So I don't know that we're going to be able to trim office sizes down. We've already reconfigured a bunch of them to make them more efficient by today's standards, but we've kind of learned a new standard in the last month and a half. So we'll see if that adjusts. Probably the biggest thing we will look at is what are we paying for our agents that they are not using? You know, what systems do we have in place that we bought for 500 agents and we have 25 using them? So those are all, I mean, they just nitpick you to death because each one is like $2,000 a month or whatever. And before you know it, it's ridiculous. So we're looking at those kind of systems and saying, let's be more efficient. And I know what you want me to say. You want me to say we're eliminating everything but Workman success systems, but we're not.
No, I didn't have an agenda.
By the way, I did not know Ramp was up and running. I'm excited to look at that.
It's up. It's launched, and it's awesome. Fantastic. Mike, what are you doing to tighten the belt a little bit to make sure that you're making smart decisions as an owner? Now's not the time to go out and lease a new car, probably.
No, probably not. And we were hoping to actually be in a new office space by right now too, which would have doubled our office space. And that would have been a little bit more eerie for our one support person who's there. She had twice as much office space for her, but hopefully we'll be able to get back to that and finalize that as we move forward. But you know, my business coach taught me a couple of weeks ago, actually he taught me this long ago, but reminded me a couple of weeks ago, let's break out the P&L and make sure that we green light, red light every single expense on there. What do we need? What do we not need? What can we ratchet back on? Let's look at the return on investment. Having the lead tracker and the transaction tracker that Workman Success provides all their coaching clients is huge because we can quickly identify what's working and what's not working. We've scaled back on some areas, but we've also ramped up in other areas. One of the areas that we're ramping up in is geographic farming. You know, we have a farm that we operate in, you know, quite a bit. We're door knocking in that farm. We're doing social media advertising that farm, and we're going to actually ramp up our direct mail because we figure people are at home. They might like going to the mailbox. The mail might sit on their counter a little bit longer. We want to be the light in the community. So social media, we're becoming a lot more aware on social media. We want to be the face that they recognize that was out there during the pandemic. And so we're really being a lot more hyper local with where we're spending our time and our marketing dollars at.
Love that. I love that. Todd, I know that you've got a team in place looking at expenses all of the time. What are you recommending to your agents that they should be doing right now to make sure that they're taking care of their families and not putting their businesses at risk?
Well, Mike alluded to it, and I'll speak on the agent level and then also talk on the company level. But from the agent level standpoint, for instance, we've got an agent best practice Zoom tomorrow morning at 9:30, and we're going to spend some time talking about that. We've got our team leaders together next Wednesday, and we'll speak to the nuances of running a team and different expenses that they can cut there. But Mike alluded to ROI, and that's everything. I mean, if it's not making you money and it's not making you more productive, you need to cut it out. From the company level, we are meeting and have met with every single one of our directors. And just take one for an example in marketing, so marketing and social media. We look at every contract that we've got, every vendor contact and contract that we have. Some examples, sit down with our website. We've got a website provider. We changed it up and redid everything about 18 months ago, and we're still paying about a little over $7,000 a month retainer. Had a very frank conversation, pulled my director of social media on the line with me because I didn't want to ruin his relationship with the website guy who they're constantly 3 or 4 times a day back and forth. So I came in and just had a very, big picture conversation and said, Jeff, here's the deal. We have to make cuts across the board. This is not the first phone call that you're going to get, but I need you to know that I want to continue doing business with you. And Lane really appreciates, he's my social media guy, what you've been doing, but I can't afford to pay you the $7,000 a month right now. I'm looking at every expense. I'm hoping it doesn't go to zero, but if you can work with me and let me know what is fair. I'm not looking for you to not give me what you're giving me right now. I'm looking for the same amount of effort and the same amount of workload. What is fair to you that I can still pay you? And his question was, are we talking about, a deferral. A lot of people are coming out right now, well, we can defer payment for 60 days. We're not talking about deferrals. I'm talking about how long it's going to last. For the next year, we're looking to spend this amount of money. So he came right back and said, you know what? I figured this was what the call was going to be about. I can do it for $5,000. So that's $24,000. Same conversation was then had with our video guy. And we were paying a $5,000 a month retainer and having applied towards it. That's now $3,000. That's another $24,000. So, you know, some of our vendors, and I can rattle off some of the names, I'll hold off, but we're spending $100,000 with. And that conversation was, and it's more of a technology vendor. And we said, here's the gig. You're going to get nothing, or you're going to get 50. And we threw that number out, and we'll get somewhere close to the 50. So that's another $50,000. We did that in business development. Went to our, you know, there's about $180,000 worth of savings just in our business development relocation department, not getting rid of any people. It's critical that we, you know, keep the people for as absolutely long as we can. And being a weenie engineer, I you know, analyze things from the extremes, just like I was talking about their politics or their personal opinion. I analyze this situation. And the best case scenario is what I talked about before, where we have the money from the federal government. We should all take advantage of it. And we use that for the May and June. And then we start getting back on our feet for July and August, and we're great. The worst case scenario, and I know this is being recorded, I don't want to go on as being negative, but the worst case scenario is that this lingers and hangs on through the rest of the year. Then there will have to be personnel cuts, because that's the biggest, and there will have to be discussions with landlords to not just defer and tack it on the end, and just like mortgages, and don't even get me started on the forbearance discussion, because that's horrific and nobody should be doing that. But let's have those conversations. And I'll give a caveat and say I am not a licensed CPA, and even if Kevin Walsh, our CFO CPA, was on it, he'd give you a caveat. But we are juggling our expenses a little bit. In 21 years of having New Millennium as New Millennium, we've never once missed a rent payment. We did not make our April rent payments, and we reached out to our landlords before that and said, hey, we're going to pay you, but we're going to be paying you in a 2-month period, because there's an 8-week window, as we all know, that we need to be paying the expenses. We're going to make 3 rent payments in that 8-week period in order to make sure that we've got legitimate expenses that are forgiven. So I think we just need to look at everything, every line item in there. Our Jen Price, our director of centralized services, she came back and said, you know what? For cleaning supplies, we're providing them. Go back to your cleaners and say, we're going to pay you what we're paying you to clean, but you're going to provide supplies. And that's going to be a $10,000 savings. So I could go on and on. Every single line item is what our agents need to be looking at in their personal budgets, what our team leaders need to be looking at, and what our branch leaders. We've got the end of the month, we've got all of the one-on-one meetings. They're all coming in saying, this is where I can save 20%, 30%. In the past, we've all looked and said, how could you shave 5% or 10%? We all need to look that much more severe right now.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%, that we have to just look at everything, and it's okay to make hard choices right now in order to create the stability and security for our businesses. And everybody on this call is a broker owner or running your own business, and you have to take care of your business. And you won't be around to serve people if you don't do the hard things today. I would love just one piece of parting thought or advice that you'd like to give our listeners, and maybe 1 or 2 sentences. I'll start with Todd, and then Alan, and we'll wrap up with Mike. Todd, what would you like the listeners to leave with today?
Practice physical distancing while maintaining social relationships.
Love it. Alan? You
know what? I think the biggest thing we have to really look at is an attitude of the gratitude that we have for the business that we're in. We are in one of the 3 staples of life. They've got to have shelter. They've got to have food. They've got to have clothing. Our business is not going away. It's just adjusting right now. We're resetting. We're reawakening some things that need to be higher priorities, and we're going to be fine. It may be very difficult. I mean, we are all hoping. I listen to these economists who are generally wrong, and everything has shifted from a V-shaped recovery to a U-shaped recovery. I think we are going to have a recovery. Throughout my lifetime, markets turn off like a light switch, and they generally turn on like a light switch. So I think we will see that happen when the time comes. But right now, let's be very grateful for the business that we're in, and let's be dynamic, and let's help people, and the rest will follow.
Love the gratitude. Mike?
I'd say
what would you like to leave everybody with?
be safe and take advantage of the time that we have to pull back from the rat race and spend some quality time with your family.
Yeah.
Reestablish those relationships, but also understand that you do need to still separate family from business. Make sure that you have your day scheduled so that you can keep your mind and your focus on your business priorities. Be the light in your communities, be the light within your team. We're going to be okay. This thing's going to lift at some point, and we'll be ready to bounce when it comes back. Focus on the fundamentals, and still don't take your foot off the gas when you're in work mode.
I love it. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being so willing to share and all of the information you shared with everybody. The comments have been just phenomenal. Lots of great comments and lots of people from all over North America. Anthony Margulis posted a great report that was kind of how China is recovering. I think that we can learn from history to have a better understanding of what's going to happen going forward. And through every major pandemic and through every major crisis, whether it be 9/11 or others, our country has rebounded with amazing vigor and enthusiasm. And I believe that the same is going to happen here, and the bounce is going to be significant. So on behalf of Workman Success, I want you all to write this down, workmansuccess.com/town hall. We'll make available a copy of this recording today. Also, it'll give you the ability to download some valuable resources that will help you going forward. And then last, if you'd like to take advantage, I'd love to just share with you our training centers so you can help your agents work and get their houses in order to prepare for the bounce. So on behalf of all of us, thank you for being here, gentlemen. Thanks for all your expertise. I'll talk to you all soon. And continued success. Keep doing what you're doing out there.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us, Verl.
Bye, everybody.